allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Hopefully we've got enough chairs. I see more people outside. It is Tuesday, October 22nd, 2019. You are at the Mitchell County Courthouse, and it is the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting. It is 8:30, and we have an agenda before us. Is there any changes to that?
I have none.
Also move that we accept it.
Second.
Barb has made the motion to accept, Stan second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approve the minutes of October 15th meeting and the claims. I did not see any issues. Fellow supervisors?
I didn't either. So I'll also move to accept the minutes too.
Second.
Barb has made a motion. Approved. Stanley is seconded. Roll call. Barb?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
Smolik? Aye. So the minutes and the claims have been approved. County Attorney General discussion. Good morning.
Good morning. Before we go into this waterway issue, just a few things. Just kind of a quick update on the opioid litigation, which has basically turned into now the bankruptcy litigation, because every single one of them is filing for bankruptcy. So I'm afraid what's going to happen eventually is, the states are going to get the lion's share of the money, and maybe the county will get something, but I'm certainly not anticipating nothing of any significance. Now, hopefully I'm wrong, but you've got the federal government in there suing them, you've got the states in there, you've got the counties, the cities, it's just, and I'm assuming, a lot of the cities are 100 times as big as the county, so their claims are going to get paid before the county. So I guess it is what it is. I think I sent you all copies of that letter that I sent to the Juneau County Sheriff's Department on that medical bill. Haven't heard anything from them. I certainly anticipate that I will hear something. I don't think they'll just ignore it, but I guess we'll have to decide what we want to do then if we don't hear anything from them. Good money chasing bad. You ever heard that expression? And then on the waterway, I don't know if anybody's here for that or not, but I went back and brushed up on water laws, and then I went back and read the trustees' duties and went through that stuff. And Iowa Code 359 basically talks about the trustees' duties, and mainly their duties come down to 3 or 4 things, which is the firefighting, the cemeteries, the county, their township budgets, and then under 359A, if there's a dispute about a fence. So those are really their big things that they're supposed to determine. I went and looked at water laws, and here's the thing that's important to remember. Everybody says you can't block the flow of water, okay? Which is not exactly correct, because they're leaving out one important word, which is you can't block the natural flow of water. In other words, if I've got a field that gently slopes in a certain direction and the water's running off that way, the neighbors can't block it, all right? But if I change the flow of water, saying, gee, I don't like my whole field being like that, I'm going to put a waterway right down the middle of it, so the water all runs through that waterway and then dumps onto my neighbor's field. Well, now that's not the natural flow of water anymore. And that's what these lawsuits come down to when they, file lawsuits is, number one, is it a natural flow of water? And number two, if it's not a natural flow, if you've changed it, what's reasonable for a neighbor to be able to do? In other words, you can't create a waterway, get a big flow of water, and then expect to dump it onto your neighbor's lawn, land, and all of a sudden it's cutting gullies and everything like that. It works both ways. And on these water flow cases, you're in equity, which means you're not asking for money. You're asking for an equitable relief. In other words, you're asking the court, tell my neighbor to quit blocking the flow of water. Well, when we're in law school, we learn certain rules about equity, and the first rule of equity is, he who seeks equity must have clean hands. You know, you can't come into court and say, hey, judge, order him to do this, but I've done a bunch of sneaky and dirty stuff myself. So if you go in, and that doesn't mean necessarily sneaky or dirty, but that means, hey, if you've changed the flow of water on your land, you now have dirty hands. You know, you can't expect, you know, to just be able to dump the water on somebody else's land. So it all goes down to, it starts, is this a natural flow of water? If it's the natural flow of water, then I always say the downhill landowner. The courts like to refer to it as the dominant estate. That's the one that's dumping on the subservient estate. But I always say downhill, because water runs downhill. So that's just kind of a brush up on what the law is. Now let's get into the important thing. Does the county have any duty to do anything? And the law is clear, unless we're talking about the county blocking the flow of water. The county has no duty whatsoever. The trustees have no duty whatsoever to get involved. And there's an Attorney General opinion from 1967 where they were asking that same question, because parties were having a dispute and they wanted the trustees to get involved and they wanted the county attorney to get involved, and they just said, no, that is an issue for the private landowners. That is an issue for the Iowa Natural Resource Council. That's where they have jurisdiction, and the county should not get involved in these matters between private citizens concerning the flow of water, unless, you know, the county is somehow blocking the water. Otherwise, no, you stay out of it. Let the private parties and let the Iowa Natural Resources Council determine whether the water's being blocked or not.
So in other words, the one party that's complaining here should go to the Iowa Natural Resources.
Either the Iowa Natural Resources Council or to his own private attorney, unless it's the county that's doing the blocking.
Right, and it's not.
Okay, then it's not a trustee issue, it's not a county issue, it's not a county attorney issue, it's a private matter between two landowners. And I don't know if the DNR gets involved in those anymore or not, but they say the Iowa Natural Resources Council is the place to go. So, okay.
Are you gonna pass this on then, Stan?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
No, I'm just out of curiosity. I'm not advocating this, not
Yeah.
whatever or so on. But under home rule, could we add that to the trustees as a duty of the trustees under home rule? And I don't necessarily need an answer to break now, because I realize
Here's the answer, and I've given you this answer many times before. I don't have the slightest idea, because until the court decides, you're not going to know, because you've got what's called, and I can't think of the term right now, but sometimes the Supreme Court will say, I'm trying to think of the big one. The big one is like in pesticides and herbicides, okay? The federal government says this is the law with regard to these. States, you can't add anything to that. That's within our exclusive jurisdiction. You don't mess with it. And other times they say, yeah, if a state wants to make something more restrictive, they can. So this would be the same thing, which is, okay, these are the trustees' duties. The Supreme Court may say, these are the trustees' duties. You can't add anything to it. Or they might say, yeah, go ahead. This
under
time,
home rule,
under home rule, you can. But until the court actually decides. But here's the problem, just from an economical viewpoint. You try and add it, the trustees say we're not going to do it, then you're in court.
Yeah.
They've got to hire their own attorney, because I can't represent both parties. They're spending tons of money, you're spending tons of time fighting about, and then you've got bad blood between the supervisors and the trustees.
Well, and it would give you a more headache, and a headache that you can't resolve legally because of the way the law is written.
That's correct.
So it wouldn't help adding it.
Well, if you added it, you could say, yeah, it's in addition to the duties found in 359, we've, you know, the trustees in Mitchell County shall resolve water disputes, you know?
But that goes from them to you, and by the way the law is read, you can't.
Well, if you added it, you'd have to be added to my duties too, and, you know, so. Because I have a duty to represent the trustees, if there's not a conflict between the board and the trustees. Otherwise, I represent the board. So, yeah, I mean, if you added that to their duties, I would automatically, oh, I've got to represent them.
Yeah, but once you have the problem, and the way the laws are written, you still can't.
Well, I could, because the law says I have to represent the trustees. They're saying the reason the county attorney's office shouldn't get involved is because the trustees shouldn't get involved.
Okay, but again, getting back to if it's not a man-made, it's not, or it's not, how did you say that? It's not a, if it's man-made and it's not a county problem, it goes back to the landowners in the end.
Well, any of them do. Any of them go back to the landowner, whether it's the natural
It
flow.
still wouldn't be resolvable.
Well, everything's resolvable, you know?
Just might not be the way you want.
It's just sometimes it's the court that resolves it, so, you know,
Okay.
yeah.
No, it'd be nice in one respect, if the guy could get some of these things resolved without having parties go to court and whatever else, I mean. But like
Well,
you say,
the problem is with that, many
Yeah.
times they still do, because the trustees say,
I understand.
hey, take that down, and the guy says, I'm not going to, or I think the trustees are wrong, he can appeal their order to the
Sure.
district court. I mean, the trustees is just,
But quite often, I mean, if you have a third party look at it, people will accept it, that's all I'm trying to.
9 times out of 10 they do, because the cost to appeal it is prohibitive. I mean, for example, you know, the Worth County case concerning the fence, you know, it cost them 20 times as much in attorney's fees as it would have cost them to just put up the fence, but it's usually a matter of principle, and
Well, in that case,
it was simply, in case you guys don't know about it, it was 2 people. One guy wanted to put up a fence, and basically the law says, the old right-hand rule, you put up half, your neighbor puts up half, which was great, you know, 50, 60 years ago, when everybody combined their corn, picked their corn, and then put the cows out into it. But now, you know, nobody puts their, you know, so he wanted to put up a fence, and he said, you put up half, I'll put up half, and they said, we're not paying for a penny, and then the trustees came out and said, you put up 2/3, and the other guy puts up 1/3, and they appealed it to the district court, and I don't even know how the district court came out, but they had a trial, and, you know, I think they could have put the fence up for a couple, and the fence, this is 10 years later, the fence still isn't up, so.
Okay. Well, good fences do make good neighbors.
sometimes.
If they're there already, otherwise they can make terrible neighbors, because then they fight about where the fence goes. And that happens all the time too. So I don't have anything else.
Okay. Is-
Mark, there's before and after photos of the Kephart property underneath that check.
Okay.
For you to do whatever you want to. My understanding, we're done for now.
For now.
I can't imagine how many hours they're gonna have in on this. I just can't imagine. Well, the rumor I heard, you tell me if this is correct, they would finish up for the day, and when they come back the next morning, more stuff had been hauled in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know.
That's correct, rumor.
What's that?
That's correct.
But it's all, it sure looks nice. So,
Would you want to stay at 9 o'clock for, basically our remodeling project?
sure, I can do that.
Okay.
And Barb, do you have anything for county attorney?
No, do that.
Stanley?
Nope, thank you kindly.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mark.
it.
Yeah.
Sheriff, I will give you the hot seat. I will let you start
Thank you. Maybe
however
I'll,
you want.
yeah, I think I'll give the awards, so
Okay.
these folks can get on about their day.
Yes.
Well, I think all of them would want to stay for a whole meeting.
I don't even wanna stay for the whole meeting. Well, good morning, everyone. As you look around this morning, you'll see faces that typically aren't at a Board of Supervisors meeting. But some of the people that I'm going to talk about briefly this morning, the events of July 3rd connected those families for a long, long time. There are times in emergencies when services like the Sheriff's Office and the fire departments and EMS can't respond quickly enough. Manpower response times at fire stations and ambulance garages takes time and distance. We need to travel to these events, all delay care that's needed immediately. So this morning, for the first time that I'm aware of, the Mitchell County Sheriff's Office and the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors would like to recognize 2 citizen responders for their efforts on July 3rd, 2019. One of them being Ryan Marzin. He's here with his wife Jessica and his family. Barrett, where are you at, Barrett? Oh, boy. McCoy and Ilray. Am I saying that right? What's that?
Ilaria.
Yeah. They're here. Also, Brian Beaver's here with his wife Amy. Thought maybe Katie would be here, but she's probably working. Also in the back is Karen and Clarence Martin and their family, Curtis and Caleb. And you'll have to forgive me on your daughter's names. You have to help me with those.
Oldest Shayna and Kayana.
Good. Thank you, kids, for coming. I have something for you before you leave. At approximately 8:45 a.m. on July 3rd, the start of the July 4th weekend, 911 dispatch began receiving information of a motor vehicle accident. At about the same time, my cell phone began to ring, reporting the same incident, but with some greater detail. Children were involved in the report and involved in the crash, and it sounded like maybe one of the children was not going to make it. A U2V had partially rolled the morning of July 3rd and trapping one or if not both of the children underneath the roll bar. Upon arriving about 6 minutes after the call came in, I observed 2 children laying in the roadway, both appearing to be very sick. The subsequent investigation indicated that 2 men had stopped after being flagged down and rendered life-saving measures. Ryan Marzin, working for Alliant Energy Power Company that morning, was in the area, and also Brian Beaver, working for LR Falk Construction, stopped and rendered aid. These 2 men lifted the UTV off the children and were able to assist pulling them out from underneath the unit. One of the children had been pinned by the unit in and around his chest, and it was causing him not to be able to breathe correctly and restricting blood flow to and from his brain. Had these 2 men not removed the unit, a very different outcome was likely. Emergency medical services were performed by the Mitchell County Ambulance Service, and the child that sustained the most severe injuries that day was later life-flighted to Iowa City Hospital. A miracle did occur over the next few days, and the child was able to return home almost fully recovered. And since the accident, Mr. and Mrs. Clarence Martin and their children are back together and healthy. So if I could have Ryan Marzin come up, please. Steve, do you want to come up as chairman also? So Ryan, this says, as a citizen responder from the Mitchell County Sheriff's Office and Board of Supervisors, it says, Ryan Marzin, Alliant Energy, in appreciation for your life-saving efforts on July 3rd, 2019 in Mitchell County. You cared enough to save a life. Thank you. And Brian, would you come up? And come over here. And again, it says citizen responder Brian Beaver, LR Falk Construction, in appreciation for your life-saving efforts on July 3rd, 2019 in Mitchell County. You cared enough to save a life. Mitchell County Sheriff Greg Beaver, thank you. I think Terry Bull with Alliant Energy would like to say just a couple of things, and if somebody from LR Falk wants to, fine, and if not, that's fine too.
Yeah, I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for this opportunity for the Board of Supervisors, the Sheriff's Office to recognize both Ryan and Brian. That was obviously a great thing they did. So we at Alliant Energy, we support a set of core values, two of which are doing the right thing and caring for others. Good employees like Ryan living in our communities that we have the privilege to serve. It's very important to our success, and we very much appreciate the actions that they took to assist in this life-saving opportunities. Congratulations again.
I have nothing prepared, but I will say something. So I'm Summer Falk. My husband Lindsay is probably the one that would have been up here, but he's at a meeting today in Des Moines. But all of us at Eller Falk is very proud of both Ryan and Brian for doing what they did. And they are just the people that they're going to help out when people are in need. So we're just very proud of them, and keep doing what you're doing. Good job.
That's all I have, unless anybody on the board has something to say.
I guess I would like to offer thank yous for our citizenry for stepping forward and helping this family out in their time of need. And again, thank you. Sheriff still has the floor here, yeah. So, thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah. All right. You don't work too hard.
Good to see you. Yeah, got a little golfing in. Fishing's about done too, so.
Well,
No, we have to prove
Greg
it.
should have a little bit more before.
Yeah, nice job.
Unless we'd like to let the engineer go first. No, here comes Greg.
Thanks for that extra 2 minutes.
No problem. I think we got a little time for it there.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. Them were very nice awards.
They are nice. Yeah.
Yeah. They acrylic or
And I'm not
glass?
sure what's that.
Were they acrylic or glass?
Glass.
They were glass.
Wow.
Okay.
Happy ending, that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, those two little boys, they didn't look like that on July 3rd. Their faces were just purple and red. So anyway, yeah, it went well. Let's see. Yeah, so I have fees for you this morning. Collected in September for $6,286.04.
Okay.
How many in this morning?
We have 3, Stan.
For,
Well, let's see, probation revocation, domestic, and I think one maybe overnight for just a traffic. He'll be out soon.
Do we have any motions for approval?
Also make that motion to approve the sheriff's.
second?
Barb has made a motion to approve Sheriff Evers' report.
Sheriff Beaver, I have a quick question. I'm just it's just pure curiosity. Are domestic abuses up compared to what they used to be?
I would say that they are.
That's what kind of the impression I'm getting.
Yeah, and see, it wasn't too many years back, the law changed that, took discretion away from the officers investigating those. That went from you may arrest to shall. And so we don't have a choice if there's obvious sign of injury.
So other times you may have.
Yep, and then of course,
Depending on-
the mental illness side of things in there.
Yeah,
that goes
that's
along with that.
definitely up.
Yeah, so I would say that they are.
That's what I guess.
Years ago, we used to be able to separate one party, you got a buddy you can stay with, or can you just stay with family? And in a lot of cases, if there's an injury, we can't do that anymore. We have to take somebody into custody if there's a obvious sign of injury.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I would say that they are.
All right.
One other thing, I wanted to bring to your attention, I don't need an answer today.
Yeah. Barb's made a motion, Stanley has seconded, roll call Barb.
Hi.
Stan?
Aye.
Smollett, aye. Okay, Greg, you have
Sorry
a
about that. Yeah, one other thing I want to bring to your attention, it's a training issue. It involves use of force, firearms, legal side of use of firearms. It's a 2-day training. It's a training that is highly sought after. It's a former military
I
special
don't think we can
forces.
shut the door, Barb.
I'm not.
A former military forces gentleman travels the country and provides this training. Training's expensive. He can take 15 people because of the range that we would operate under, shoot under, and then classroom size, and just one instructor to 15 is all he's willing to handle. So the total cost of that is $5,000 a day. Now, I'm not gonna fill all 15 seats, but I'm gonna sell some of the other seats if you think it's something that you would go along with. So I have 6 full-time guys that I would put to the training. And then I would sell the other 9 seats, and I think they're pretty much all sold now if I get the green light to do this, at $400 a day. And so that brings in, well, 400 times 6,
3,600.
3,600 times 2. So you have $7,200 off that 10,000. So then it cost me $2,800 to train my 6 guys for 2 days. Still a lot of money. I don't have travel in there. I don't have hotel expenses, food expenses if I would send them somewhere else. I spoke for a date of June 25th and 26th tentatively several months ago. I got an email back from the company, and they asked for me to confirm that date because others want it by October 30th. So give it some thought for a week. We have a meeting next week, right? Is it on the 30th? 29th. Give me your thoughts then.
Well, this sounds like a no-brainer. It sounds like something that we could resolve today. I mean, it's a
Well, that's up to you
win-win
guys.
situation. You're able to utilize.
This training, how is that going to improve all you deputies? I mean, just kind of walk me through.
Okay, so, we can train people on how to shoot a firearm, all right? The biggest factor anymore is when. Maybe they can de-escalate it and not have to use the firearm. You see it in the news all the
Oh,
time.
that's huge right now.
Yeah, and so that'd be one factor.
No, that would be a good one.
Yep. Range time, I guess, just more use of their firearm and more familiarity with their firearm. And then the legal issues that come about if you do use a firearm, when you maybe could have de-escalated. And so the Dallas police officer went to prison. Fort Worth, a week later, a policeman's answering call, shoots through the window, right? And so it'll address some of those issues for us in an expert, manner, I guess. And that's what I'm looking for.
Well, when you consider the cost of a lawsuit, this is very cheap. And
It is.
If
It is.
so, move to approve.
And seconded.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, we haven't
Appreciate
voted
that.
on it yet.
It looks like.
Roll call. Stanley,
Aye.
Barb,
Aye.
and Smollett, aye. That way they'll get their training and have the, a little bit of education before a situation does happen.
And I think, Mark, you're gonna do some of that, or you and Aaron, we're gonna do search and seizure coming up
Next
this
Wednesday.
month.
Next
Yeah.
Wednesday night.
Yeah. So I don't know, it's just it's like hitting a moving target in a courtroom anymore. You don't know how they're gonna, right?
I was gonna say exactly that.
Any heads up on a situation for an officer is better than none. And even though each situation could be different, and the outcome's always gonna be different, but this still gives a little edge.
Well, I
And
think there's
5,000 is
liability and
cheap.
failure to train too.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing as Stan said, this is a no-brainer. Because you can spend that much money in a second if there's a wrongful shooting, or even the potential of it being a wrongful shooting. You'll spend $50,000 defending yourself, even if it turns out that it was legitimate, because you'll have to get independent investigators involved that'll get paid, you know, if there's a lawsuit, and, you know, yeah, those wrongful shootings are just a nightmare right now, because the tide flows and flows, and right now, it's kind of, there's too many videos out there with people getting shot who shouldn't have been shot.
Yep.
And that's what people are, the 500 where people get shot that deserve to get shot aren't on the internet, you know? The 10 where people didn't deserve, and that's what juries are remembering, is the 10 that have been etched in their minds.
Okay, well,
all right, well, thank you. That's all I have, unless you have more.
You gonna be over to the office after?
Yes.
Okay, I'll come over and see you.
Yep, okay.
okay,
I'll
well,
be there, thank you.
nothing else for Sheriff Beaver?
No.
Thank you.
Thanks.
It is 9 o'clock, so I think we probably have to go to this. Oh, my gosh, it is. We don't have 9 o'clock down for the number 6, do we?
No, number 5 though, you do.
Okay,
I goofed up, there's 2 3s, so cross 6.
well, you've got open bids for used vehicles, so we'll let the engineer in on this right away? Yeah, I guess I had it in my head that we'd have that resolution for the plans, but the way it's written, we can do.
Well, some of these are Greg's too, so. I don't know if I'll open them, I guess, so you can read them both.
And you're opening for what right now?
Right now, they're, some of them are, we'll just open up for what these guys have. This one is for the Tahoe and the 96 Ram, secondary road status.
Okay,
Tom Cummings is bid $651.99 for the Tahoe, and $201.99 for the 96 Dodge Ram pickup.
Let's just do the Tahoe, since that one was a duplicate, or that one was a dual one. We'll just open the Tahoe one first.
yeah.
I don't know which one this is. That one didn't have it. Yeah, this one's Tahoe.
Big Bridge Motors Incorporated. Joseph Dabad out of Island Lake, Illinois. He bid $1,668 for the Tahoe. This one is Tom Howland. This is for the Tahoe, $2,200.
That one's here.
This is Brianna Williamson. $5,333.
5,000?
Yes.
And that's for the Tahoe too?
Everything's for the Tahoe.
Randy Torney. $3,565 for the Tahoe. Merlin Haglund. This one is the Tahoe. $6,996.69.
Well, they keep going up.
Prices are getting more fair.
Darren Volklander for the Tahoe, $3,150. Jackson Steinberg, $1,200 on the Tahoe.
Was the Tahoe's.
Yep.
This one's for the pickup.
Two for the pickup. Merlin Hagelin on the pickup, $21.12.
He didn't want that one.
So, the high bid on the Tahoe, Merlin Hagelin, $6,996.69. High bid on the pickup, Tom Cummings, $201.99.
Generator was on there too, right? I thought they had.
Or wait a minute. It was, yeah, generator was too, nobody
Nobody
bids.
bid on the generator.
You're right, just the prices on there.
Nobody bid on that generator.
That's surprising.
Yeah, everybody in the world wanted it. Okay. So do we have to have action to approve this?
Yes.
Okay, we have a bid of $6,996.69. That's the high bid. Do we have any motions to approve?
Well, your recommendation,
Is that high?
Yeah, I recommend it. That's a decent price for,
That's the sheriff's.
that's the sheriff.
Yes, my recommendation is to sell it.
Okay, I'll also move to sell it for that price.
second?
Okay, Barb has made a motion, Stanley has seconded, roll call, Barb.
Aye.
Stan?
Right.
Smollett, aye. So Merlin's got himself a Tahoe. The pickup. We have a high bid of $201.99.
Your recommendation?
Send it down the road.
So moved.
It's in tough shape.
Okay. I'll second that.
Stanley has made a motion, Barb has seconded to approve $201.99. Roll call, Stanley,
Aye.
Barb,
Aye.
Smollett, aye. Mr. Tom Cummings has got himself a pickup. Might have to Fred Flintstone it, but he's got a pickup.
Maybe he's handy with fixing stuff.
Can we maybe try to put that generator on Facebook and see if we can't?
Do we know the people that were interested before, have they been contacted?
I haven't had anybody directly contact me for it, but I guess that's kind of a call for the attorney. If we've already put it out for bids and nobody bid on it,
You can do anything you
then
want.
We can have Casey put it on Facebook then.
Let's do it.
Okay.
As long as you determine the price.
yeah, that's one thing we'll have to do is come up with
I
a,
don't think you can do auction type stuff on Facebook. I think you have to list the price, don't you?
I don't know if you can say make an offer.
There's Mitchell County Cellular things. You can put it on and put a price with it.
That's true.
Yeah. I think you have to have a price on it.
Yeah. Well, you can put 0.
Yeah, it's not like eBay though, where they bid on it and the highest bidder.
I guess I would have no idea what we would want to ask for it.
Well, we can
guess it-
determine that next week. We can
Yeah.
give it some thought.
Okay.
I think so. So-
Do we, like what size or anything?
I wasn't able to find out exactly what size. I know the model number gave me a range for kilowatts. I guess I don't remember the number sometimes. I think I might have given you, the unit number was a,
Do you want to just send me the information later?
well,
So
it
we
was
can
in
research a little
the
bit?
article, or in the thing, but QT. somewhere in the item number, it would tell us what the power you know, whether it was a 14,000 kilowatt or whatever, I don't remember what it was, cause the owner's manual only gave me a range of 2 unit numbers. And then I went and looked at the unit and I couldn't find it stamped anywhere. I didn't spend a whole lot of time, but I couldn't see anything that was obvious to me what size it was, but,
I know.
giving the item number to somebody else, I guess I could do the research online and find out what size that item number is, or the
You do have all the paperwork.
We've got the books and the key to get into it. That's where I went and tried to look for some of that information to put in to give to Lowell when he advertised it. So.
We had offered it to the landfill at $4,000, and they found it in their best interest not to buy it. So they thought it was cheaper to go with new and get a new warranty.
For them, yeah, I know.
For, you know, they would get it set.
I know my dad put a new one in, and it was a lot smaller than this one, and it cost a pretty penny. So I mean,
Yeah, and you know, the issue with this is what do you need for boards to connect? Is it 3-phase? What is it? And
well, and that's all. I think in the description, I said it was a 2-phase, or maybe it was 3. Somewhere in the descriptions I sent Lowell had information on there, but
that
all the boards and
changes-
stuff that were on the
That changes its saleability to a farmer because you have to buy it.
yeah, it says it's a 3-phase
So-
unit.
Unless you're 3-phase power, then you have to buy
Well, I think
a converter.
and it could be that you could set it up both ways. I don't know it.
Yeah, anyway.
Do you wanna research a little, or to tell Casey even how to list it? You
I
know,
can
that
give
it's a
Casey the
three-phase
books and he can
generator.
read through it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, Dave is somewhat familiar too, we can be asking
Yeah.
Dave too, so.
Oh, sure.
Because I'm not quite sure that facility was a 3-phase facility. Was it? Can't imagine it would have
If
been.
it's got 3-phase power coming in, I
Unless it was
I
just a
just
unit
seen the
that's-
panels getting tore out. I had no idea what they were,
Okay.
but, do you have anything else to
I got-
bring up?
Quite a bit.
Okay, we will move forward then.
I know we don't have the purchase of a loader on the agenda, but it is budgeted somewhat. But I can bring it to your attention now, and if you guys wanna hold off and think about it for another week, we can put it on next week's agenda too. I had Merlin and, Ben, the mechanic, go look at a couple loaders. We're short one loader in St. Ansgar. We've been renting one for a while, but the one we have in our shop now, the big Cat, isn't really a conducive piece of equipment to run our blower that we have. And so we were thinking of buying a newer unit that's a little bit bigger to hold the blower, so that we aren't, having to rent out, hiring somebody to come bring their loader in and use our blower, and then it gives us an opportunity to get a loader in another shop. So we've got, trying to update some of this older equipment. So I had them go look at a couple, being it's something bigger and something newer, a little bit, with the, I don't know what they call it, not an easy ride, but a cushioned ride for the loader. When you're running that blower, you want a little bit of suspension.
So we've got an air ride.
Well, it's the, I can't remember what they call it on the hydraulics. They call it a, I'm gonna get it wrong if I try to say it now, ride control they call it, I think. But anyway, I had them go look at a couple of different loaders. One loader is a 2016 Cat 926M with 4,600 hours on it. That was quoted to us at $102,500. They looked at a couple other ones that weren't quite so great in great a shape, but one was a 2014 with almost twice as many hours, a John Deere for $88,000, then another Cat 926 for $103,000 with a year newer and about 1,000 less hours. But we think the better buy is the 2016 with the 4,699 hours. It's got newer tires on it. Was in a lot better shape physically, and just looked like it was a better taken care of unit. So I'm leaning towards the 102.5 for that loader. I know we're still looking at a trailer and things like that for our excavator to hold on. But when we looked at the budgets and everything else, we talked about this earlier in the season, or when we did budgets where we were budgeting $1 million for equipment. We've got the truck on order, we've got the motor grader on order. That leaves me with about $570,000 in the equipment budget. This takes care of $102,000 of that. Still leaving us with some extra funding. We're looking at, like I said, trailers. We're looking at some other things that might be conducive. You know, it was brought up last week about maybe a track skid loader with a brush cutter on it. That's gonna take some funds, probably another $100,000 at least. So I've got some cushion there. With that money right now, because we're not quite sure what exactly, as we get closer to purchasing, we're looking at some different things. We talked about a 6-way dozer at one time. With our road grade projects, we've been renting one every year, we've been doing it, and with the cost of renting, if we're gonna continue at this pace, we're probably gonna be better off owning one than renting one. So there's dollars and cents in there. In fact, there was a quote for a 6-way dozer in here. I'm not quite sure it's the one we want yet, but you're looking at similar prices for a dozer, around the $100,000 earmark for that, but I'm not ready to commit to a dozer just yet. So, that being said, I don't know if you guys wanna discuss it now or wait.
Your last loader was a Cat, what year was it?
That was an 85 Cat that we bought,
Okay.
and that was about a $40,000 loader.
Yeah, but I mean,
That's the newest.
Of your 3 here that you were just discussing.
Oh, I'm sorry, no. This one is a 2016. The other one was the John Deere was a 2014, and the other Cat was a 2017.
Okay, it's 2017. And that was how much?
The 2017 Cat was $103,000 with 1,000 less hours on it, but it had a high lift boom on it, which is kind of maybe not as stable for us with the blower.
But you say it has 1,000 less hours?
Yep, and a little bit rougher shape than this other.
Yeah, if it's rougher shape, that means it was used and abused maybe.
And I can't remember where some of these were used at, but that high lift boom is the kind of the kicker there. It's nice to be able to lift higher, but when you've got, you get a little bit more unstable the higher you go with the loader. So, and having those, having Ben look at it, I'm going to trust the mechanics.
The high lift it doesn't protrude further out or anything.
I don't think it does protrude out.
It just lifts up
I think it
higher,
lifts
which
higher.
is something that we really don't need.
No. And for the hours we're going to put on a machine, I think this machine's going to last us a long, long time.
And
Unless
the
winter start.
16 had new tires.
Yep, that's what I was told. It had newer tires on it. Newer tires, I guess. I can confirm that.
What was Ben's idea? What was his thoughts?
His thought was this 2016 Cat for 125. If you guys wanna,
It isn't on the agenda, so we can't do action on it, but we could maybe,
Well, I don't know.
Think about which one.
County engineer.
we could think about which one we would like, so you
It's a
can
budget
notify
item.
him.
I mean, whatever, it's up to you guys whether you wanna do it. I mean, if you wanna do it now or wait.
Well, it could get sold next week.
Well,
That's
that's the
say,
thing.
you want to tell them if you want it.
Right.
I'm fine.
So, it's,
So moved to.
And also,
for which one?
the
2016.
2016.
The 16?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do action on it, but
It's in your budget, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just,
It's a budget item.
okay,
Yeah,
let's resolve it then.
Okay.
Stanley has made a motion, Barb has seconded, roll call Stanley, Barb,
Aye.
and Smollett aye, so you now have the right to go
All right. we'll get that.
require that 16.
We'll get it. The Stacyville Bridge update, they've got the 2 lanes poured, one of the parking lanes poured. Today they want to pour the other parking lane and one of the sidewalk sections. Trying to not to get too much pressure on us, but we have been getting some pressure on trying to get the locals wanting it open.
Farmers want to get that open.
But I've been in enough construction zones to know that people don't pay attention. And these guys still have work to do that requires them to be in that right of way. It's their construction project, it's their construction zone, they're responsible in that zone. They've got big equipment that still needs to come in yet to finish it. I've asked the question, it's up to them whether they yes or no it, but I've asked the question whether they would allow it to be opened up for traffic and work from the shoulders. There's a lot of room there, but that's entirely their decision because we don't own that right away while they're under construction. So
That's
I've asked the
theirs.
question to the contractor and I haven't gotten an official response back yet. So just so you know, we're working on trying to get it open as soon as we can. I think the rain kind of has helped a little bit. I think that'll push the harvest off for a while yet, now that it's been so wet. But at any rate, we're getting close. With the pavement down now, that's always a good thing. They've got to bring in some more riprap yet and backfill behind the sidewalks, and that's where they're gonna need some of that equipment yet to come back in. And I've been around, like I said, I've been around enough construction where people don't pay attention, they don't read signs, they're looking at their phones. Is it worth somebody's life just so somebody can get a wagon to town a little bit quicker? I'll tell you, just the other week when we're paving in Worth County, we had somebody drive through our construction zone while we're laying out fabric on the highway, drove past all the workers right up to the front of the dump truck that was dumping concrete in front of the paver. Went through every sign we had and still continued to go where he couldn't go anymore. Now, we want to open up a construction site now when people do that. I mean, I'm just kind of frustrated with the
Well,
public.
it's their choice.
Right, so it's up to them, so I'm just saying that we've asked the question, we'll find out whether they want to or not. Moving on, the guys are trying to do some patchwork yet. They've got some stuff that they did east of New Haven. They're gonna try to get another one done down on Stillwater Road and then head north of Statesville and try to get a few more done yet this week before we get too much cold weather coming in, so they're still working on that. We'll have next week, I'll probably be bringing you something from WHTS on the bridge, that up on the, we call it the Y Bridge up there by the Bailey area that we're replacing. That one is really getting sticky with the right-of-way and the special design of the bridge because of the curve. We're probably gonna see some additional engineering fees on that I'll bring back to you next week because of the special design on the abutments that need to be done because of the way that bridge sets in that hole. The increased fees are probably a wash compared to buying right away and redesigning a whole new intersection and all the fill that goes with it. I think what they've told me is what the price of the cost is. I think it's reasonable considering where we're at in the design of this bridge and what it could cost us to design something different and reevaluate an intersection. So it's probably gonna be an additional $20,000 or not to exceed of $20,000 in design fees, just because they've got to redesign or design the abutment back walls for that. It can't be a standard back wall because of the way the hydraulics work through that area. So at any rate, I'll bring that to you next week.
Nothing simple.
No, and that one, because the bridge is on a curve already, if you design a curved bridge, it's a ton more expensive. So we're trying to fit a straight bridge into that curve, and then to get the abutments and stuff to work in the right of way, it's cheaper than buying right of way. And like I said, redesigning a whole new intersection to make it work.
And Rich, I appreciate that extra story when you're talking about the bridge in Stacyville, because if the construction decides not to open, that makes it easier for us to defend their reasoning.
Well,
Just hearing a story like that, that's ridiculous.
when you've got dozens of signs out there
Yeah.
and people ignore them.
No,
Anyway.
it's their road, they have the rights to that road.
Right, and I'm not saying I'm not working with them to get it open. I'd like to get it open. I have a habit
Sure.
of, I don't like to delay the public, and I think the public
course.
sometimes doesn't think we think about them, but we do.
Oh, yeah.
When we get close to a project, I like to at least get it temporarily open as fast as we can. It isn't gonna be that we won't have strength in the concrete, it's we still got work to do, and all it takes is one bad step from somebody or one distracted driver to take somebody out.
Yep.
So, the next item I have is, because we're in a wet spring or wet fall, and we ran into this once already, how do you guys wanna handle all the mud that's gonna be tracked out on the gravel roads? We've had it happen once where there was a good coating of mud on the stretch of gravel road. We requested the landowner remove the mud, and in doing so, it removed all the rock too, and we had put rock on that road already once this year. So, how do we wanna, I understand we're in a farming community and we've got a really bad spring, we've got a bad fall, and that's gonna carry into my next discussion with you folks, but how do we wanna handle all this mud?
So what's your recommendation?
I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
Got any
if
ideas?
you have a
obviously-
recommendation, I should I ask?
obviously clean up after themselves, but not take the rock off, but I just have a feeling that we're getting some colder weather now. If we
Yeah.
have them take it off, and do we try to re-rock it before winter?
We're going to have lots of problems this fall.
So are we better off, I don't know if we're even, yeah, if they scrape it off, they scrape it off, but I'm not really thinking that we should put rock back.
It's too late, we'll throw it in
Yep.
the ditch.
Here's the thing, and this carries into my neck, maybe this helps, but that roadway maintenance budget is completely blown because of everything. Now, part of it is, and I've talked to Lowell about this, because you guys have pledged $1 million from TIF to pay for rock. And that money is still sitting in a fund somewhere that initially, I guess I thought it was planned that our rock bills were gonna go to the board to pay off, but that didn't happen, so it came out of my budget. So I need that $1 million in my budget to at least get me a little bit better than under zero. Right now, I'm at over $1 million spent in that category. I had budgeted $700,000 knowing the rock run money was going to be paid for with TIF. But because of the spring and the aftermath of the bad spring, we were putting rock down all summer. In addition to what we normally do, we're way over that $700,000. I'm gonna need to amend. Fortunately, I have, after going through some budget stuff, I know I've got some carryover balance money that we can amend. It's just crazy sick to think that we're over $1 million spent this year just in that category. We've never been that high before. But it was a bad spring, it was a bad summer. It's just, and this is something we're probably gonna have to consider every year now. The weather's not changing like we think it's going to. So, just food for thought on that. But going back to the mud, I don't know that we can really put rock back down and think it's gonna stick.
Not now, it's just too
So-
late. But what is the liability of the farmer?
Well,
Rich and I have discussed this.
well, it comes to obstructions of the right of way in a way. I mean, sometimes it's clean up, sometimes in my opinion, it's clean up after yourself. And that's just a personal opinion, but as far as the law goes, I don't think that you can just go and again, I understand we're in a farming community and mud gets dragged, it gets pulled out of the fields all the time. And this year is just gonna be terrible, we know that. So at least request that they scrape off the mud. We asked this person to do it, they scraped it off and put it back in the field, which was fine. I mean, it did take some rock off and maybe inadvertently widen a little bit of a driveway with it, but it wasn't illegal material to do that with. I mean, but I guess I don't know where to take this. I mean, we're gonna, we tell everybody that, scrape it off and you're gonna pay for rock, that's not gonna fly. But again, we put down more rock than we've ever had before, and now we're asking them to scrape it off because there's so much mud on it. The mud's gonna stick, the rock's gonna stick to the mud, so.
Do you wanna put an article in the paper suggesting that, just that they clean up after themselves, but to realize if they take the rock off too, it doesn't mean they're getting rock back this year?
Well, some way, I guess, I don't. What's an opinion?
Okay, and Rich and I had discussed this, and just because something happens doesn't mean the county's entitled to collect damages. In other words, the law is pretty clear. If they violate the law and damage a road, they are responsible for the damages that are caused. A few years ago, Stan was on the board. They were loading semis way too heavy and they damaged a gravel road, and we sued them for it, and they ended up having to pay for it. Now, you get into the next thing. Let's say they're not violating the law, and odds are if they're running a semi and a grain cart, they're not. Then you have to prove there was negligence involved. Okay? Now, is it negligent for a farmer to drive a grain cart or a semi out to the road when it's full of mud? Or do they have a duty to stop and scrape all the mud off their tires before they enter onto the road? My best guess, a court is going to say, hey, in agriculture, that's just one of those things that happens. It doesn't happen every year. On the other hand, I can see a court saying, yeah, you've got a responsibility to maintain the roads for everybody. You can't just think of yourself. I don't know the answer, whether that's negligent to not scrape your tires off before you go onto the road or not? I don't know the answer. I know it's not against the law,
No,
but does it constitute negligence?
they probably will, nobody will scrape your tires.
No.
No.
But, I mean, so the court would have to say, yeah, there's a duty for you to get off and scrape your tires. Now, if you were down in Polk County, a judge there may find, yeah, we've got one semi and 500 cars on the road, you've got a duty to scrape your tires. In Mitchell County, where it's 20 semis and one car, they may say, no, you don't have a duty to scrape your tires. Or clean it off immediately, or clean it off or eventually, or if the county has to re-gravel it, you're responsible for that gravel. I don't know the answer.
Maybe one of the best solutions, excuse me, one of the best solutions would be if we understand that this happens at an area that we send one of our graders out, that, I mean, they can probably do as good a job as any trying to get the mud off and keeping the gravel on. I mean,
Well,
as
that's
opposed
fine,
to-
I don't have a problem with that, I'm just trying to figure out, if the mud doesn't get taken off the road and it stays there, then in the spring, we've got these people calling, the road's muddy, you don't have enough rock on it, well, the rock's there, it just got field mud on it, and so,
Well, but let's,
but I don't have a problem with trying to help. Our job in secondary roads is to make the roads safer for the traveling public. And sometimes it seems like we're always just following up after people, cleaning up after people, which isn't always proper, but it's part of our duty is to keep that road safe. So I'm looking for some guidance from you folks as to how we
I
handle.
think there should be some common sense on the operator of the farm though, as to
common
what
sense.
you want to do to the road.
What I can do is I can probably draft up a little note to put in the paper to say, look, we understand this year is tough, it's gonna be this way, but we request that if you do leave excessive amounts of material on the road, that you do clean it up.
That's what I was
Or
thinking.
contact us so that we can help.
More of a suggestion rather than a threat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
that'd be
it
fine.
is going to happen. 'Cause
I know, it's already
we're way
happened and
behind.
it's not getting better and
Crops are way behind,
everything's way behind.
so they are going to go nuts when it's time.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, I wanted to bring all that stuff up to you folks and just kind of keep you in the loop of what's going on. I'll work with Lowell on the funding. I guess I don't have,
Yeah, we're planning to do
I don't know where that
a
TIF,
budget amendment, so.
well, I don't know how that TIF money gets transferred in then. Plus,
I don't know either,
We'll have to
so.
amend it into your budget.
okay, and then you also had the 250,000 from the pipeline study that was supposed to go in there. I do have, that bridge is one of the bridges is getting completed already, so that money will need to come back in too. I don't know if that's been transferred in yet or not with your guys' approval
Yeah,
on that money,
that
so.
was approved, so.
I guess it's more of a money juggling between Lowell and I, just
Yep.
want you
Yeah,
guys,
that
might
in the
as well
budget.
get
I
it
want you
done.
guys to know where that,
Because we already approved it, so.
right, I just want you guys to know where the budget stands. Everything else is looking good, it's just that one item that deals with the rock, it's completely destroyed. So, we'll get through it, I just wanted you guys to be aware of it.
We'll probably have another bad spring too.
I don't wanna hear that, so, but yeah, I guess the way.
What
things
else do you
go.
have?
I don't have anything for you.
I got a couple, 3 items. One, I asked Richie to take a look at changing the stop sign to a yield sign. And basically that was right here on Timber and number 9. There's good visibility coming from the west going east, and there's a stop sign here. I mean, there's very good visibility. And it really makes more sense to me to.
Do you know the reason the stop sign was put in the first place there, anybody?
No, I'm gonna
No,
guess
but
that
I
maybe.
know we took it down one day hauling rock years and years and years ago, and it didn't take somebody very long to get it back up. So we have to make a resolution to change that.
Yeah, well, you do, but you, and I don't know what's considered, if timber is considered the through road or not. Somewhere there should be a resolution that put that sign up, I'm assuming, somewhere. It's gonna take me some time to dig it out, find out if it was a visibility problem. I mean.
It isn't right now, so.
No, it's not right now, but, and it is close to an intersection, where you come off of there and.
Yeah, the traffic should be slowing down coming from the north.
Right.
I guess I'd like to hear their reasoning in the first place, why they.
Well, and I don't know if I'll ever find the reasoning in the first place, but I'll do some
Might be
Because
research.
that sign's been up forever, ain't it, Charlie?
That-
As I remember.
What is that? Is it,
It's timber number 9 is what it is.
yeah, but you don't want the timber 9, you want the one off the gravel,
This is 410.
410.
Yeah, or 10-foot timber then.
All right.
Well, then, in Little Cedar, basically that is a town that we maintain the roads and so on because it's unincorporated. And there is no street lights on 430th going into Little Cedar. All the other towns do have street lights, and a matter of fact, right in the center of Little Cedar, there's no street light neither. It's pitch dark at 7 in the morning yet. And I'd like Richie to be able to ask if we get 2 street lights up there in Little Cedar.
And I assume the electric bill and the cost will come out of secondary roads.
I
How
don't
do you
see a
feel
problem
about
with that.
Well, the lights are helpful at intersections.
I guess I thought Stanley was gonna ask to have a sign removed there too. That one has been questioned by people up there, that they would
In
like
town.
to have that stop sign from the north taken out and put on the west side. Well, that's Main Street, and I wouldn't touch it. So,
We'll call and get some information. I think the lights themselves, putting up new lights, depending if there's a pole handy, you're looking at a couple thousand per light. And the monthly bill to operate it, so.
okay. Yeah, I think the lights part would be a good thing, and not change the sign.
No, we'll be fine there.
But what else? You said 3, Stan.
That's
2 lights and a sign, that's true.
Okay, that's,
Yeah.
okay, that's the 3 items. Okay. Is that it, Stanley?
Yeah, that's
Barb, do you have anything for Rich?
No, I'm good.
Thank you, Richard.
I already
don't have
mentioned to him
anything.
about sexual harassment tapes.
Anyways, I think county attorney's probably waiting for us to get into this net situation so he can get to his business. So, thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
Thanks for waiting, Mark.
Number 6, approve resolution tentatively approving the plans and specifications, forms, contract, and estimate of total cost to the Mitchell County Services Building, public health remodeling project, and setting the time, date, location for hearing thereon, and further authorization the posting of notice seeking competitive bids on said services building public health remodel project. Anyways, we had a meeting with Mr. Anderson the other day, and we discussed, and we'll have to publish a notice of public building. And then on November 6th at 1 PM, we will have a pre-bid. Correct, Lowell?
Correct.
Then, November 14th,
What they talking
at
about?
2 PM, and bids will be received at the auditor's office, but on November 14th at 2 PM,
I can't wait to do it.
we'll have the bid letter,
Bid opening.
or bid opening, yes, correct.
Is this something that people attend, or do they just call in, or? what's this
The
gonna
bidders would be attending.
Well, is there an estimate of the cost?
Estimated cost is $140,000. What the architects
And that-
estimate.
And that is total,
be? Is that the architect's fee?
That's the estimate, but it could be less.
right, it could be more too, but then that isn't, but I mean, that isn't breaking it down into I mean, that is just one
Yeah.
complete bid on the total
That's what he
project.
told us.
That's the actual building, not architect fees or anything.
And then on November 19th, we'll have a public hearing at 9 o'clock.
Steve, is that just for the building, the 140,000, or that's not including architect fees, or?
That should be all, isn't it? Well,
I don't think so, I think
No,
that
I
hundred
think
and forty
his
is just.
his is
the
extra.
construction. The contractors
If
paid the
if you're
bill.
bidding, that's
Yeah.
just the building.
But we've already made him pay, we've already paid some down for his services, right?
I don't know if we paid him anything yet on that or not.
Well,
Quite
we
possible.
paid him something, I hope it wasn't
More or
for
less.
that garage.
Cause it
But we
wasn't,
have paid some down. Anyways,
didn't originally you wanna try to stay under 100,000?
that's, so we wouldn't have to bid, but it can come up right up close.
You wanted to stay under 100,000, but then when they said the furnace or HVAC alone was gonna be 45,000, I just said, no, there's just no way you're gonna be able to.
Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
There's no way.
it was too close to being over. Well,
Yeah.
one bid was 90-some thousand and one was 100 and something. So that put it over and we won't even wanna mess with it.
Yeah.
We'll go the correct route. But, anyways, on November 19th, then we will take action.
Yeah, the
Well-
public hearing.
Yeah, the public hearing
And
is
then
at 9
action
o'clock.
afterwards.
Where are we proposing to pay for this out of?
No. Come out of county funds somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have to work on
Well, I'm not interested in having a bond issue.
What
Not
did you
when we
guys,
have-
what did you guys say when you originally planned it?
I think,
We had
I
a
think we
plan.
built money into the budget
We
for this.
had a
Like,
plan
why
at
put
the
stuff in
time.
it in this budget? In anticipation of that, but
Okay,
it's
you
been
wanna-
talked about for
Well-
a long time.
Better double check on that.
Again, what I would recommend is that, we make our payment here on the courthouse, that we use, TIF money on the courthouse, freeing up our 1 cent option sales tax, and that would allow us to make payments.
Our 1 cent option sales tax we're already using for the St. Ansgar daycare. And if it's built in the budget, why would we do that?
Well, I don't wanna, I'm not gonna bid, or vote on it if it's, or
No,
vote
we need
for
to
it if
find
it's-
out where it's,
If we don't, I mean,
Coming
if we
from.
don't have the money somewhere along the line, I'm not interested in doing a bond issue.
Well, this isn't what's proposed. It's a bond issue, so.
Well,
you wanna check
But-
on that, Lowell, see if it's been in the, built in the
I
budget?
guess I thought we
Thought
had
we
that money somewheres.
I
When
don't know
we
if you
started
got-
on
I don't know
this.
if you've got your monthly report that shows that, but I don't have any figures here with me.
I don't either.
But we just got yesterday got our bill for our GO bonds, and that's, what was that?
459.
A little over 450,000 that we have to pay by the end of November. And we paid, I think it was over 3 million last spring.
Yeah, we had a way figured for this money when we started this.
Pretty sure they got put into the budget.
Oh, we better double check.
Well, we kinda needed to do an action on this today. I guess, can we check on this? We'll do some figuring here, Lowell, because I
Table
don't
till next
remember
week.
how we had it planned. And then I suppose, can we have a special meeting tomorrow?
Well, you gotta post it, you gotta post it 24 hours in
It'd
advance.
have to be probably late tomorrow morning, have to be at least 24
24
hours
hours.
from now.
So that we could have a vote on this?
or could we recess till tomorrow?
You could do that.
I'm in,
It
I'm in
doesn't look like
Charles
it's
City
too,
at
but
10.
by the way that nobody's here, it doesn't look like it's a controversial issue. If something's controversial, I would not recommend recessing because
Right.
they would
This
say,
wouldn't take
oh,
long
that's
if
just
we're
a
here."
way of getting around posting notice, but you have posted notice. I guess you could go into recess at, when the meeting's normally over, just saying we're going into recess until 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And have your meeting tomorrow morning at 8, and continue the meeting tomorrow. It wouldn't be a new meeting, it would be a continuation of the meeting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
I think
How
that,
about 8:15? Because
I-
I'm driving bus in the morning.
I don't care what time, I would just say,
what are your thoughts, Lowell?
I just call up to Rachel and have her,
Okay, do some, figure this. We had discussed it with Barb. We had a plan. Anyways, we can finish this off yet today.
That'd be better, yeah. We can find
But
out.
Mark's got better things to do too
Oh, sorry.
than sit here.
well, what were your questions for me?
Well, I think just have you here to make sure that
We were doing it all legally.
doing it correctly, even though I'm going off of what Mr. Anderson was doing, and he was doing it from going off of another project for, it's legal.
Well,
Again, yeah, our I's dotted and T's crossed, that's
yeah,
why.
well, as long as the notice goes in the paper, then the notice of the public hearing, and Lowell gets that in time, I'm sure they're gonna provide him with the language that he needs to use, because they do this all the time, so I'm sure they've
Yeah.
got a stock notice he can use and just insert date, time, and place, and get that in the paper, and you should be good. Like I said, this isn't $1 million project that's controversial, or there'd be people here. But still, you wanna make sure that you've got everything done correctly, your notice in the paper correctly, but that's also not such a big deal if you're not gonna bond. You know, bonding council isn't gonna wanna see notice of the public hearing and all that stuff, so.
We can return.
have her bring it down.
Okay.
Well, why don't we move on to
Yeah,
the other
go
items?
Let's go on.
Number 7.
Number 7, auditor's quarterly report and review. Report of review.
Reverend.
Total amount paid to county treasurer, that's the right one,
Yep.
$192. I would suspect that we have to approve this.
Yep, so move.
Stanley's made a motion,
Second.
Barb has seconded, roll call Stanley.
Aye.
Barb,
Aye.
Smollett, aye.
In the claims, Lowell, instead of plot books, it said like flot books or something like that. No big deal, but you might wanna,
Okay, moving on, approve the recorder's quarterly report of fees, and that is, total amount, okay, record management fees at $552 with a total amount paid to county treasurer of $23,156.31. And that was submitted by Pat Schooster. Do we have any?
Also move to
Questions?
approve it.
Okay, Barb has made a motion to approve. Stanley,
second,
seconded. Roll call, Barb.
Aye.
Stanley,
aye.
Smollett, aye. Approved the recorder's quarterly report. Meetings attended. Barb?
Sorry, mine's gonna be long. Human Resource Committee, meeting for County Social Services was in Decorah. I did learn when terminating someone that you're supposed to actually use the term transferring an employee instead of terminating. For Human Services, we decided on recommending to the board Alley's and Cooney attorneys. We had 3 choices. They were actually the middle in cost, yet had the most experience, being used by more counties. We can still hire an overall HR person who does not have to have a degree And these attorneys, the first year would actually train this person. So in the future, we wouldn't have to rely on expensive attorneys so much. Discussed was rent-free in lieu of them paying for our general assistance person, Ashley Rosendahl. As Bob Lincoln suggested, the committee did think that each county should be decided individually. I learned that also that if an office is held in a county building, it's actually called occupancy rather than that they're renting. Upcoming will be a resolution concerning any county social service vehicles and office furniture being taken over from us by the 22 county social services, one employer by January. Heartland Insurance. I missed one. Heartland Insurance meeting in Tama. We went an hour over our usual, and workman comp rates went down. Mitchell County had no claims. They are now listed, if you ever look at their stuff, under Maverick. We discussed claims such as a 15-year-old escaping from juvenile detention and a policeman tackling her to the ground. This happened in West Des Moines, and she hurt her knee, and they're getting sued because the nurse there misdiagnosed, and turned out that the knee bone was actually cracked. And we also had one of our lawyers asked to be able to offer up to $50,000 for a claim of someone who fell coming out of the store, which is 6 inches off the ground. And I made the motion to allow him to spend up that much as far as an offering a settlement, because frankly, I thought it looked like an accident waiting to happen. It's those doors are 6 inches off the ground.
Yep.
That seemed insane to me that they would even, and he said, well, they could have got by if they had just put signs, but we just talked about people don't look at signs. So I think they personally need to do something about that. We have voted to allow $2,000 for a desk review of our properties, which means that they don't actually have to come out, which of course would cost a lot more. It's all done by computer and ends up to be only about $200 a county. And most everyone's had changes of some sort since the last time it was done 2 years ago. Also with claims, Benton County is fighting nitrogen fertilizer exposure, as the doctor believes the persons who were more related to other, his stuff was related to other health issues. More interesting stories of the person with the chronic accidents who seem to have made a career out of it. So these people are everywhere. And they're trying to negotiate and actually try to get him to retire, since he seems to keep doing this. Another something about a meth user in and out of jail for years, and each time going back to making meth, finally turned it over to the feds. Said, we're not dealing with this anymore. Message to those who didn't get to see the sexual harassment training: they will either recycle old CDs or they'll have to do it online, which takes about 5 minutes, and you have to take again if you don't pass. They gave us a pie, and you know how for our driving records, how they 1 point, you know, and up to 4 points, and you can lose your insurance, which basically, depending on what you're doing, you might lose your job. But the big pie is that's how most people are with nothing on their driving record. The next one is just 1 point. It's probably speeding. 2 points, then maybe add a DWI in there, and then this little skinnier slice, those are probably the people that just should be let go. Most of the rest of our time was spent with someone from Benton County talked to us about a huge cybersecurity breach they had, in which the sheriff's department, in which parts of their records were encrypted by ransomware, in which to get their info back, they were asked for $5,000. By the way, many hospitals are getting bad with this too, including lots in little old Iowa, they actually were able to negotiate it down to $2,000, because in their people they had to hire a ton of extra people. They traced it actually back to France, but France law won't make them give out the information of who hired them, but they're pretty sure it came from Russia. And even though they only had to pay $2,000 for that, all this ended up costing them probably $1 million with new computers and all these tech people having to do this, and the feds were involved. They were just lucky that they didn't have damage to their hardware like a lot of them get, but they actually found their firewalls were missing for about a week. The FBI at first did not want any of the public to know, but the supervisors and the sheriff talked them into and said, we really need to let people be aware that it can happen anywhere, so that they are more vigilant, and also because people were seeing that they had immediately went into closed section and no press was allowed, they were jumping to even crazier conclusions of what was going on, and they're like, we got to stop these rumors and just be honest and tell them what's happening. The recommendations, they definitely want you to contact Judy with Heartland Insurance immediately, and all the department heads need to know this. So Heartland gave us about 3 pages, and I'm having it sent by Lowell's office. They're sending it out to all the department heads. And they want you, they said time is of the essence as far as trying to save you some money. The email, their email now goes through the cloud first. You should maybe ask Carl's advice through Heartland on advice about closed sessions, which Mark can probably even answer for us too. They now all have harder passwords. They have to use the characters, the number, maybe one letter capitalized, that kind of thing. And they're changing them more often. Now we do that pretty often, so I think we're good there. Definitely don't leave your passwords sitting out where anybody can see them. And those who take laptops home need to they're using some kind of double passwords to get in. And backing up daily was important. It took what they called 4 keys to actually unencrypt what they did, and they had to pay in Bitcoins, which I thought was interesting. And I passed on some information already to Casey too, so I think that's it.
Okay, well, we'll get back to our resolution to the remodel project. Anyway, Stanley, I forgot all about it, but we're gonna take that money out of the garage project fund.
All right.
There's
Capital projects, it's for construction.
So we already have it.
We have
It's
it.
budgeted,
How much was budgeted?
300,000.
Good.
Okay.
So there's where I forgot.
And how do
Well-
you, Raj?
Well, that's
Just
How do you spell that?
right here, capital projects.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, you're all right with it then, Stanley?
Yep.
So you have a motion for a resolution of contract?
I can make that resolution if he's uncomfortable with it.
Do we have a resolution?
I'll get it to you, but it's setting the date and time for a public hearing of November 19th at 9 a.m.
All right, second.
Okay, Barb has made a motion, Stanley is seconded. Roll call, Barb,
Aye.
Stanley,
Aye.
Smolik, aye. So, this is done. Mark, thank you for sitting here.
Yeah, thanks, thanks,
Yes,
Mark.
appreciate that.
Not a problem.
We kept you way too long,
That's all right.
so. Getting back to the meetings, Stanley, do you have anything?
I had none.
Okay, I had, well, the meeting with Gary Anderson, but I that, so, FMC DCAT had a meeting October 16th at the Floyd County DHS office, and they discussed the contracts for the year 20. And they had some issues with billing with LSI and integrated mental health. They discussed that, and they reviewed and approved the for year 20 DCAT plan. We had action that was approved. Moving on, in integrated mental health action, we had discrepancy in Chickasaw County with pathways. It was $125 a day. That's what they're supposed to get per person, and that's through the contract. And who pays? They just couldn't come down with who pays, whether it's the schools, because they weren't directly contracted with pathways. And they needed collaboration with the schools. So big issue. They talked about Prairie Ridge and Avalon, which is used in Floyd, and they get $165 a day, and they aren't having any problems whatsoever. But anyways, that just kind of got tabled. And they discussed carrying funds initiatives, carrying over the fund initiatives and trainings for FMC. Supposed to have had an action, but that turned into a big fray, and they didn't, we couldn't finish it. We lost quorum, person had to leave, so that got tabled. We have a new person that will be on part of a new person for the board. Her name is Gail Vickers, and the next agenda they will vote, or in our next meeting they will vote to get her in. Moving on, North Iowa Juvenile Detention. They called meeting to order. It was October 18th, 2019, and that's at the Juvenile Detention Services building. Called the meeting to order. No public comment. We had quorum. Discussed the financial report. Carried. Discussed committee reports. And some issues. Detention report. Issues. They had numerous fights. One of the people working there got smoked from behind. Person that did that was an adult, so that person ended up in county lockup. They also discussed the use of GPS services for their residents. There's 23 residents there, so they have GPS on them. They discussed the subacute report. What happened is one person died. I think we all got that email. They have not received anything from the autopsy yet, so there really wasn't.
Don't know.
There really wasn't any information divulged on that. Some of the issues they have, people elope. They get out of the building somehow. Sometimes it happens when they're being taken to the hospital. And they discussed continuing to work with mental health professionals. So they're hiring 3 full-time staff. They're going to promote one, move up the ladder. Budget and finance, they're looking at 2 new vehicles. 2 units they have are around 150,000 miles, and they can get what would cost us 50,000. I think Sam made an indication that they could get them for, with all their government discounts and stuff, around 27,000. They discussed amendment to the for year 20 budget, and that they had action on that, passed. other business, and I don't remember the name, but apparently there's a pastor that works out of that. He said a name and it didn't sink in. Anyways, that person has died of pancreatic cancer,
Oh,
and he had been there for 26 years. Juvenile detention home fund update. All detention centers, this is kind of a plan that they're wanting to work out throughout the county, or throughout the state, rather than each center getting X amount of dollars for services rendered. They want it so that each detention center gets $100,000. Because some gets way high, some gets hardly nothing, but they don't want to lose the smaller detention centers. This was Sam's way of saying we'd like to keep, and we voted on that, and that's kind of, well, actually, we didn't vote on that. We voted on something else. We discussed mental health of Iowa getting 9 other centers throughout Iowa, and they'll serve a 120-mile radius. Do you know anything about that, Barb?
say that again, the 120-mile radius, but of what?
Let's see, the mental health of Iowa.
Yeah,
There's 9 centers with mental health.
okay.
They're gonna start 9 centers, or put 9 different,
We have a meeting, actually tomorrow, so I'm guessing
Okay.
I'll hear about that then.
you'll hear about it. Anyways, that will serve a 120-mile radius around each one of them. And they want to change the name of the North Iowa Regional Services, with what they're going to change it to. It will no longer be North Iowa Juvenile Detention Services, because people are thinking that it's only for detention when it's supposed to be for mental
That
health.
is misleading.
Yes, it's
What are they gonna
misleading.
change it to?
North Iowa Regional Services. And that was passed.
Okay, now, are they still youth though?
Yes,
Okay.
but it's youth and adults, but it's also
It is
mental.
adults too though?
There's adults, and
Okay.
mental health is, they want people to think of it as also mental health, not just
Well, that's good because it's needed.
detention, juvenile detention.
It's needed.
Anyways, our next meeting is January 17th. So, anyway, that is my meetings. Stanley didn't have any meetings. We have nobody here for public comments.
If you wanna know
Oh,
keys.
that's correct. We have from Mitchell County Home Health, year three salary increase for Lynette Ephart, effective October 19th. New wage of $30.47, was $29.87. This is approved by Laura Huesman. Also, year 1 salary increase for Jessica Kettleson, RN, effective October 22nd, 2019. Her new wage will be $24.69, and it was $24.21, and again approved by Laura.
So does this mean that Lynette's gonna get this for 3 years? And-
It's her
It's her
third
third year.
Okay,
It's
just-
probably hard to understand, but this is her third year. So this is her,
step increase.
yes.
so I wasn't sure, they talked about, see, they gave her extra duties when what's her face left.
Well, she had extra duties before.
Yeah, but they talked about that, of not having her do that anymore. She must have stepped up, because they were a little concerned that, some
Well,
of
I
the
think-
stuff wasn't getting done. She must have stepped up
which-
for her to
which one was that,
approve
Barb?
it. That was Lynette.
Lynette Kephart.
Yeah, hers got reduced.
It got reduced? Okay.
Well,
Okay, that makes sense, yes,
But
okay,
its
gotcha.
new wage is
But
30.
according to this, it says, she got a raise.
I know, she got, yeah. that was a while back when she got that reduction. That was for when Laura kinda took over after she did get a reduction then, I believe.
But I don't know, they added on more, I'm a little confused with that, but I'll find out.
This is your 3-year, yeah, that's your,
I'll find out what's going on.
but it's the 3-year, or the year 3 salary increase.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming that she stepped up the plate and got her, what they wanted her to do, or they wouldn't have passed this.
Anyways, is there anything else that we need to discuss?
Nope.
Barbara? There's nobody here for public comment, and I think Lowell would like to get back upstairs, so with nothing more to add,